Hi, welcome to our fireside chat with one of our long-standing clients and developers, Dereck from Provolve in the Netherlands, and Amos, who has worked with them as a developer from Uganda for 6 years. Today, Dereck and Amos are going to be sharing with us the truth about working with international remote teams, and you will learn about what it means to collaborate remotely with African developers. Hi, Dereck. Hi, Amos. Thank you so much for doing this with us today.
Sure, no
Okay, so
problem.
we're going to start with a brief introduction, of each of you. Derek can go first. Derek, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about Provo's mission and services?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Dereck, CEO at Provolve IT. Been in business since 2014, and I think around 2017 or 18 that we started working with Tunga and Amos on our product called East Software Deployment. And we didn't have any web development skills, so to say. So that's why we looked for a partner to help us deliver that skill set. And first we worked with someone else, but then Amos came in and we worked with him actually for the last 6 years. Um, yeah, and that's about it. I think to keep it short. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Derek, for that introduction. Okay, so I would like to give the floor to Amos right now. Amos, can you please introduce yourself and tell us briefly about your work with Provo?
Yes, hi, Amos Palgembe from Uganda. And yeah, like it has been mentioned, I worked with Provolve for the last 6 years, and yeah, it's coming to an end. So I'm a full stack developer, focusing in the .NET kind of stack. So I do front end and back end. With Provolve, we've been building desktop applications, but also they're being powered up by uh, front end and then back end APIs, of course, that live within the web. So yeah, I've been trying to provide solutions in the world of computer management and software deployment using such a tech stack.
Okay, thank you so much, Amos, for that introduction. Okay, so we're going back to Derek right now, and we're going to take a bit of a deep dive,
Mhm.
into the details of your work together with Amos over the past 6 years. So, but I would like to start from where it started from, basically. So, Derek, what challenges did your team face in your IT department before partnering with Tunga? And how did those challenges affect your team personally and professionally?
Yeah, so like I said in the introduction, we didn't have the skills to develop a cloud native solution, and we wanted to move towards a cloud native solution because the product we started with was actually a on-prem solution, so a local database, local network, local Active Directory, and things like that. Yeah, and we wanted to modernize the application and then move that to the cloud. So that's one of the technical challenges we faced. Yeah, hiring a local developer was something which was pretty costly, and the budget didn't allow for it. So we were looking for other solutions, and then yeah, we actually found Tunga, and that way we kickstarted the process. And for us, it was a great solution to have someone remotely working for us because we already started working remotely when we started the company. So it was remote first, actually. So it was really a good fit. And yeah, I think most of the challenges were based around the technical side of stuff, personally and professionally. not so much because we're already used to working together remotely. So I think Amos really fit well into that way of working for us too. Yeah.
Okay. Uh, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm glad that we're able to, over time, help you solve some major challenges. But I'm curious, how did you first hear about Tunga? I know you worked with us for 6 years, but how did you first hear about Tunga? Because there are several organizations that does remote hiring for companies. So why Tunga? Why did you pick us, and what drew you to our approach?
Yeah, so the we got contacted by Tunga back then. I think it was a cold call type of situation where
Mm,
someone set up a call with us with I think it was Bart also back then. Um, but it piqued my interest because we were already thinking about going this route, so to say. So when Tunga contacted us, it was like just in the right time, of course. And what really attracted me to Tunga was first that it was also a Dutch company working with Africa youth, of course. Um, and of course, every company and everyone has some reservations on uploading work to another country, offshoring. You hear a lot of bad stuff about it. So, of course, in the beginning, that was a bit, how do you call it, exciting to upload this work. But yeah, we got a good feel about how Tunga works and that you have a Dutch liaison in between, so to say. So yeah, that really just gave us the confidence to go ahead.
okay. I hear that. But did you have any initial reservations about hiring from another continent, particularly Africa?
No, not about Africa in particular, but you know, uh, in IT, it's pretty normal to outsource stuff to other countries, and I've heard a lot about India and things and countries like that, and you always hear like different stories and how people can make it work, but a lot of times also don't make it work. So it were those challenges, maybe like, okay, will it fit maybe the culture or the directness, because the Dutch are known for being very direct, like we want this and we just say what we want. But that actually works very well with us and Tunga and Amos in particular. Yeah. I always call it, I used to give Amos one sentence and he would run with it and create something from that one sentence. So that was very nice. Yeah.
Wow, that's so good to hear. Okay. I'm hearing that Amos did quite a lot to represent Tunga and, of course, Africa, ably with Provolve. My next question was going to be I was going to skip it, but maybe you have something extra to add. I see that Amos was really able to contribute meaningfully to your team, right? And that probably helped you to, trust that Tunga could provide quality talent for you. But can you share your story out of how you eventually came to trust us? That's Tunga, and how you decided to move forward with us, after we reached out to you at first.
Yeah, sure. So I think it's based on trust in the beginning, of course, you get to know the company or the people behind the company, and then they tell you stuff and you have to believe that, of course. So, but I think um, trust is a big part of that, and everything felt trustworthy and uh, like what you were gonna do, and you were said you were gonna do. That's actually what happened or was gonna happen. So that is how you made us feel, and it was great. But you always take a deep plunge, so to say, into the deep end, or plunge into the deep end to um, and see if it works, of course. So it's also something you just do and see how it pans out. But of course, it worked out very well for us, and that's how we approached like 7 years of working together. Yeah.
Okay, so I hear you say that, of course, at first, because you hadn't tried us out, you never could
Mhm.
have known, what you were going to get, right? So you decided to just take the plunge, and then 6 years later, you were glad you
Yeah.
did. So I think that was a good one. Um okay, I think for a moment I would like to shift focus to Amos. Hi, Amos.
Hi.
Okay, so Amos, I know you worked with Provo for 6 years, but can you maybe share a bit about your experience working with Provo, working in a remote environment particularly, and how you were able to adapt to remote environment, especially because you're working in a cross-cultural environment with, you
Mm.
from Africa, somebody from Europe, or a team from Europe. So what helped you to fit, into the team effectively in order to deliver such amazing results?
Mm, I think I would start with the atmosphere created by the team itself. I mean, you're from Africa and you're dealing with someone in the Netherlands, the Dutch. It's your first experience interacting with someone from a different culture across the globe. So they were a bit welcoming, accommodative. Um, I believe I made some mistakes along the way, but I mean, you didn't see these people trying to push you away, I would say. So yeah, to answer that, it's more like the team really was in for what they wanted. So they created an environment for me to perform even better. I mean, if given a task, you would feel you can even give extra time for it. I mean, to get it done because of the atmosphere that was being created. Um, yeah, that is what I can say.
Okay. Let me
Mm.
ask a quick question that was unplanned, right? Did you
Mm.
have any remote working experience before working with Provo?
Yeah, I did, and I would say it didn't end well. So I already had some biases about it. So that's why, from the previous question, I said the environment that was created by the Provolve team was really supportive and so encouraging. At the end of the day, you would feel at home doing the tasks that they are assigned, and you would give it whatever you have uh, to accomplish it.
So what I'm hearing is that how comfortable or easy it is to work remotely is really dependent on the company you're working with. But of course, I think also on the person doing the work. I think it's dependent a lot on both parties. Uh,
Mm.
the employee has to be someone who is diligent, self motivated, and on the other hand, the company has to be able to create an enabling environment for the employees. I think we've
Yeah.
had such an experience as well with Tunga because we're a remote first company. Everybody is scattered all over Europe and Africa, and we see each other
Mm.
like once or twice a year. But it's still kind of fun and interesting to work, with the company. So I'm glad that that experience was really key for you as well, and it helped you to,
Mm.
adapt easily with Provo compared to even your previous employment. Okay, so but Amos, I would like to ask, maybe you should blow your horn a little bit. What were your key achievements while working with Provo over the past 6 years?
Yeah, I would say the first was yeah, I can just recall the first days when I was introduced to this new technology, and I had no idea about it. And the first assignment was to perform some kind of API calls, I would say, and I do it. Makes Dereck amazed, I would say, very happy. But of course, the key achievements working with Provolve over the past 6 years is seeing the product that I'm working. Like, I don't know how I should bring it, but working on the product that is already out there, and you're getting live feedback from the customers on, your work. I don't know how best uh, to put it, but yeah, working on um, I'm thinking of the word to use. Yeah, but my point my point here is about uh, it's more like a commercial product, like how you feel when your work is out there and someone is using it, when they face a bug, when they have a bug. When they desire some new features or have bugs. You get to know, you're involved in the calls with customers to identify what the issues are, like you're solving a real problem at the end of the day. So with Provolve, we were trying to deploy software, automate the process, and making realizing that you're helping, or you're cutting costs or saving times wasted by a customer trying to deploy software on 1,000 computers with a tool that you have developed or you have improved. I mean, it alone is an achievement. So, yeah, that's what I can say.
Wow, wow, I really like that.
Mm,
Uh, I believe that developers are not just
mm,
people who can be employed somewhere to write code endlessly. I feel like
mm,
many of them gain fulfillment and actually are able to give their best when they're able to connect to the purpose of what they are designing at the back. It's not just about the technical bit, being able to see the impact of your work, get feedback,
mm.
as often as possible, and deploying that really makes it meaningful work. And I'm really glad you also
Exactly.
had that experience. But
Mm.
in all of this wonderful experience, did you face any challenges while working with Provolve? And can you share them and how you were able to overcome them?
Of course, there are always challenges. What I would say the key challenge is you're a lone developer. So when you actually run into an issue, you have to solve it. Like, you have nowhere to run. Of course, there's a Tunga team that you can run to seek solutions. But then, you would have to explain the entire context at the end of the day. And you're writing, I would say there's this language called Autotkey. I don't think there's anyone in Tunga that has actually used it. So you're running into an issue. Uh, the best thing you could do is go to the internet and search. And I would say it wasn't easy. I actually mentioned it to Dereck because I was like, we have had scenarios where I've run into issues and they have taken, let me say, weeks. Of course, not so many weeks, but taken a long period of time being resolved because, you're alone working on this. So you have to really take time to understand, figure out things. One, it makes you a better person, but also taking a longer time solving something, one, it drains you at the end of the day. And yeah, that has been, I think, the biggest challenge working as a lone developer with Provolve. Uh, I don't see anything else.
Okay, so basically your biggest challenge was working alone. You wish you had like a team or you know a support of a support team of other developers, and Tunga was
Mm,
able to provide that to some little extent, but there were some technologies that you just needed to search about by yourself, and I would say that happens sometimes, but it makes the
yeah.
work even more worthwhile by the time you are able to solve it and you're
Exactly.
like eureka.
Mm,
So yeah, uh but let's turn the attention a bit to Dereck.
mm,
Dereck, can you share the challenges that you faced during your collaboration in Amos? Now, this could be a personnel challenge. It doesn't have to be technical alone. and what key learnings or insights have come from this experience?
That's a great question. um, I think one of the technical challenges was, like Amos just said, when we started out working with Tunga, the product was still coded, written in AutoHotkey, and that's more like a, as far as I understand it, because I'm not a developer, but it's more like a scripting tool, low-level Windows scripting tool than it really is a development language. So when we first started out with Tunga, there was someone else from Tunga who didn't know it either, and he started working on it, but then he wasn't available anymore, and Amos came in, and Amos also, of course, had to really dig into the way it was written, and the co-founder Ferry started working on this product in 2005 with AutoHotkey, of course. So yeah, I think that was a challenging time for Amos, but we've never put that much pressure on somebody to deliver something in unrealistic timelines or something. So we knew what we were getting into. We wanted to, take this sort of code base we had in an unconventional language into the new world. So, we were pretty, how do you say that? We were willing to wait to get a good result, of course. And I think Amos delivered that perfectly and pretty quick, actually, also, because within no time we had a hybrid solution where we had a cloud part of the software running on a backend, and uh, the front end of the application was actually connecting to that, and everything worked well in that regard. And of course, we had to optimize it during the years, and eventually it developed into a newer version of the product, which uh, we discontinued late last year. But I think those were mainly or the challenges. And in the beginning, maybe also a bit of like the language barrier, trying to really understand what each other's are what we are saying, maybe the dialect or the accent a little bit, but that's those things you learn and you get accustomed to and used to from each other, I think. So yeah, everything else was actually going very smooth. Like I said earlier, it's like you give him one sentence and he creates something with it. So that's always been very nice very nice way of working, actually. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good to hear. In a minute, we are going to, uh, talk a bit about those cultural differences, like language. But just following up on the previous question, I know you shared how you faced certain challenges, and but eventually you were able to solve it. Amos was able to jump on a project that somebody else was doing, and in a short while, able to accomplish that. But can you share examples of some tangible results that you experienced during the course of your collaboration with Amos?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I think everything since working with Amos and Tunga, of course, was pretty tangible. Um, uh, like I said earlier, it was already pretty quick that we had a working hybrid product with a cloud backend. And the first thing, I think one of the first things was to add a package store to the product. So like have a list of um, freeware you can download and you can enter into your own system and then deploy that, like 7-zip and Adobe Reader and things like that. And I think my memory is maybe a little bit muddy, but I think that that was done pretty quickly. So I think we've been seeing results all the time, actually. So you start working together, you give someone an assignment, so to say, and then you start working on that together. And of course, Amos also had some support of the co-founder who originally written the product in that language. Of course, he had maybe Tunga as a backup and maybe other developers who could help. I don't know exactly, but I think with that way of working and just focusing on what needs to be done, that's usually what it is with remote working anyway. You focus more on the work than all the stuff around it if you would work in an office. So I think that's also a way that it created results pretty quickly actually. So and since the time we've been working with Amos, yeah, he spearheaded the entire development process and even became the lead developer for another person who was still doing his school and did the assignments under Amos and with Amos. So, it's been a great ride. Yeah,
Wow. Uh, that's so good to hear about Amos. Great to become the lead developer. That's a
yeah.
huge accomplishment. Okay. Going briefly to Amos. Can you share, Amos? Can you share a memorable moment that made you excited to be working with Provolve? That moment where you're like, wow, I'm so glad to be here.
Um, but I think the first days I would say, because I
Mm,
mean, just depends on where you are coming from. But I would say, just being given it, I would say, okay, my colleague choosing me and suggesting my name to the Tunga team to carry on with Provolve. Uh, that alone uh, was a moment for me at the end of the day because changed a lot. But then um, the other excitement would be, I mean, this is a new domain, somewhere something that I'm not. I didn't have any idea about. I knew about the Windows Server, the deployments, but I didn't know that there could be products like is a software development could, I mean, offers seamless, simple solutions on top of the existing platforms. I mean, so the domain alone where I've been working is was more exciting. So I've learned a lot within the Windows world, and given that I'm a .NET developer, there's a lot that I've added onto uh, the knowledge base that I have regarding computer management and so on. So I would say every moment when you're learning something new is a memorable moment,
mm,
and that has been it working with Provo, because there have been so many challenges that are actually push you to learn new things, and whenever you achieve something, I mean, there's you feel at least you've not wasted time. There's something new you've added onto yourself, and you're going to carry this knowledge with you forever and ever at the end of the day. So within the new companies where I work, I mean, there's a lot that I've carried. Working with Provolve was more like, to me, the freedom they gave me to do, I mean, to write the code, I would write, like, I would say the first code that I wrote and the code we have today, they are far much different. So they gave me a
mm,
chance to explore a lot and learn. So and learn. So I would say I'm better partly because Provolve gave me that chance to exploit whatever technologies that are there that they are using to learn something and make their product better. And yeah, that is what I can say about the moments of learning have been exciting.
oh, I really like that. I always appreciate an organization that makes you better when you're leaving
Mm,
than when you came. So that's the real value there. Okay, let's just take a little bit of a deep dive. We're almost done anyway. Let's just take
mm,
a deep dive into the cultural differences, right? We talked earlier about how working with somebody from Africa, from Europe, and how there could be some challenges. Dereck mentioned language barrier earlier. So how did you navigate the language barrier and any other cultural differences that might have showed up during the course of the collaboration?
Um, yeah, I think just by doing it actually. So just, pushing on, continuing on by working together, listening to each other, respecting each other, also really taking the time to not rush things, I think. And to go back to the stuff Amos just said about the freedom, yeah, that's always something. It's one of our core values also within Provolve IT, but also that's something, the way I look at it anyways, like we went through this together, this adventure, so to say, together. So that's why you have to give each other the space to do what needs to be done and understand what needs to be done. So I don't think we did anything specifically to really, navigate culture differences. I don't think I ever looked up about culture in Africa or where Amos comes from and how to approach it or something. I just, approach each other with respect and with dignity, I think. And I think, and with openness, of course, and just, work from that because, in the end, we're all just humans and we all need to communicate with each other, no matter where we're from. So, yeah.
Well, I like hearing that. So basically, it doesn't require any special skills or knowledge to be able to collaborate, coming from different cultures. All you need is simply to be an understanding human being, right? Giving each other, giving each other a chance, listening, giving time for growth and that synergy to happen. Yeah, I think most people do not actually know that. They think, they have to go learn something, act a certain way in order to be able to collaborate across different continents. But really,
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started to work at Tunga, as somebody who grew up in Nigeria, it could take a while to be able to understand the both the accent and
Mhm.
the manner of expression of somebody from Europe. Europeans could be very direct. I think the accent is even pretty clear. Imagine this was somebody from Britain, having the British accent, probably much more difficult. But I think with time, you kind of get used to it. You kind of begin to understand each other's manner of expression, language, what somebody says and what they mean by it, and all of that. It simply takes some time. And at the end of the day, it usually yields a very good result. Okay, but I know that in Tunga, we usually employ different names in order to have like this social activities or that unofficial environment. Not every time work or official things. So we try to come up with different ways to connect with each other, aside from work. So were there such strategies between you and Amos at Provolve that you used to build a connection, despite being miles apart?
Um, yeah, and just to get back to the last question, actually, apart from communication, we didn't do anything, but I think it's important to, have clear communication, of course. So that's, I think if we would go back to that skill set, it's important to have, of course, the communication skills, and not all IT people or developers are great at communicating. So I think if you can really communicate what you want, that's of course is a problem, but we didn't face that issue. And strategies to use to build connections. No, I think we treated almost the same as any other team member who works remotely. Of course, we also work with people in the Netherlands remotely, work with customers and with other vendors and suppliers remotely. So just bringing someone in as part of the team, we also gave him his own Provolve address, his own tools. Of course, he also has his own computer and stuff like that. But we really onboarded him as a team member, and that's I've always looked at Amos like a remote team member from Africa. So that was the only difference. He's in Africa and we're here. So, and when we have like quarterly meetings and pizza sessions, which we do every quarter, of course, Amos wasn't there physically, but he was there at the quarterly meetings remotely and shared updates. So we didn't keep him apart from a lot of stuff. Of course, from some stuff, like it was really internal employee stuff, we separated that a bit. But apart from that, it was like, treating each other the same way actually as you would any other person we would have on our payroll. So I think that was the strategy. If you talk about a strategy, yeah.
Okay, I think that's really good. So a good strategy would be to keep your remote team in the loop. That way you're able to maintain connection. Regardless of distance. Okay. Still, one question before we move to Amos. One
Mhm.
question for you, Derek. If you were to describe the partnership with Tunga in one word, what word would it be and why?
In one word, okay. I would really
Yeah.
need to think about that, but yeah, I think it's been easy, and our product is also starting with ease over deployment. So I think it would be good to describe this as easy and not in a bad way. So everything was pretty direct, and if we ever needed something, we would just let it know. I think you've seen all the developer reports with the smileys and the happiness icons, things like that. And I've almost always gave it the full happiness icon, so to say. So I don't think we didn't have much contact anyway between us and Tunga, except for working with Amos, of course. But that's why it's been easy. It was pretty clear what we wanted. He worked with us and delivered what we wanted, and that's just how it went. So it was pretty easy, actually. Yeah.
Hmm. Easy. Such an interesting word.
Yeah.
Okay. Amos, if you were to describe your experience working with Provo in one word, what would it be and why?
I would also borrow the same.
Okay.
Yeah, I would use the same. Um, because of the reasons he
Why?
has given. The reasons he has given, I would just add that. I mean, the communication bit. I would say there's no time we had a conflict. He has always been understanding, even when I'm unable to deliver. Um, I'm away. Uh, Things are tough. I mean, you go, you ask for feedback, and you're like, this is going on. This is going on. Like, okay, take your time. I mean, look into this. So there hasn't been any kind of conflicts. I mean, at some point, I even went as far as really trying to really find out how should I bring it. Like, I think I asked my delivery manager to reach out and find out whether there are any issues, because I got a bit scared with, for example, the fives. These fives are like, there should always be something bad that I need to improve. Uh, can you try to to find out? And I remember also mentioning to Dereck one time, but there hasn't been anything that he has highlighted that maybe couldn't uh, that he couldn't. I mean, that would cause any conflicts at the end of the day that he didn't like. So yeah, that's what I can say. It has been easy.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I like how we've already talked about how it was full of challenges, right? But at the same time, there was a good relationship. That's what I can see, right? It's not
Yeah.
like everything was rosy, but even with all of that, the relationship was good. So I'm glad to hear that. I have just a couple more questions to go. Two for Derek and maybe one last one for Amos. Derek, from your experience, how does outsourcing remote tech hiring save uh, more than it costs, and why would you recommend this model to other companies? So let me just, I think this question is kind of long, so let me just explain a bit. So in contrast with hiring, maybe going out to hire Amos yourself, how does using or going through Tunga to hire him save more costs for you, or save more than it costs for you? And why would you recommend this to other companies?
Well, for us, it was easy to work together with Tunga, like I said earlier, because they're also a Dutch company, so we can just they can just send us an invoice, or you can just send us an invoice, and it's from the Netherlands and everything like that. So uh, that plays a big part in it. And if you would hire someone from a different country directly, it would be like I think a big hassle. There are a lot of platforms who can help with that, of course, but I think it would be lots of stuff to research and to really get after, and really figure out how to do things. And with Tunga it was just okay, we needed someone, they supplied someone, and they just invoiced us for the work that's being done. So also easy again, but yeah, that's how we experienced it. And if I can recommend this to other companies, yeah, of course, if you're looking to outsource more work or onboard more team members, and you can't find them in the local country you're residing in, of course it would be awesome to do it this way, and fortify your team with more development skills, and also for lower cost than usually what is the going rate in the country you reside in. So yeah, I can really recommend it this way.
Mm. Okay. Amos, final questions for both of you. I feel like Derek has talked a bit about that, but if you'd had something later, please do. But first, Amos, finally, would you recommend Tunga to other developers? And what would you tell them about your experience with us?
Yes, I would, and I always do. Would recommend Tunga to so many. I've done that so many times, and I always share my experience. And what I always tell them is the first experience that I had with the companies that I worked for remotely, and then what I got when Tunga came in. So Tunga has always made sure there's work for me, I would say. And that is all that we are looking at. You need to be earning at the end of the day. You need money to keep coming in. I know it's more like freelancing job that after a few months can end, but they make sure that they get you something, and you continue um, earning some income in exchange for your skills at the end of the day. So yeah, that's what I can say.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for that. Okay. Finally, to Derek,
Mhm.
I know you already said you are going to recommend this model, to other companies, but would you recommend Tunga to other, companies? And what would you tell them about your experience with us?
Yeah, I think it's just a recap of everything that's been said, but I think working together was a breeze. It was easy. It was direct. So if there was anything going on, and there was never any actual thing going on, but it's always been easy to reach Tunga. I've had good contacts with, of course, the founders, but also with Rainier, and yeah, it's always been pretty easy and going well working together. So yeah, I can really recommend it, and just to try it out, outsourcing your work to a different country, different culture. I think it's really recommendable, and it works well. Yeah,
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you,
no
Amos. Thank you,
problem.
Derek, for the amazing recommendations, for sharing your stories and your journeys with us. And thank you to everybody, who listened to this. Really, really happy to have been able to facilitate this collaboration. And we really hope to do more across Africa and Europe and, every other continent of the world who desire to have African developers on their team. And I think this will be the end of our fireside chat with Amos and Provolve. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.